We are only 2 weekends away from the end of the regular season. Think about that. Of all the glorious games and all the fond memories of this year that we will cherish, many of them from this college football season seem to have vanished in an instant. And we're only 3 weekends away from the first ever 12-team college football playoff bracket being revealed to us. And while this is not my college football playoff bracket prediction that will be coming after the playoff rankings are unveiled, this correlates with that because this is me telling you, entering week 13, who I think the 15 best teams in America are. With the caveat, the only caveat to this rating, being that there has to be a group of 5 team involved. The best group of 5 team involved, because we're going to be seeing most likely, definitely, a group of 5 team in the 12-team college football playoff, or probably every college football playoff in the future, unless we separate the group of 5 and Power 4 into separate divisions. And I don't know if that's a good thing for the sport or not, but that's for a different video for a different time and topic. So 14 of the best Power 4 teams will be in this top 15 power ratings, and one of them will be the best group of 5 team. Of course, all of this is from my opinion, what I read in terms of analytics, in terms of individual player stats, and also my eye test opinion, what others are saying. All of that is blended together and spit out in this top 15 power rating. So before I reveal that to you, and we're going to go from the worst to the best because we saved the best for last, so we'll start from 15 and go to 1, I ask you to score a touchdown for the channel and do these 7 things to help us out. And that is subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification bell so that we can show up in your feed, and also so that you can get notified when we release new content, and so that you can join our awesome community here. We are the best Big Ten football channel on YouTube, and thanks to you, we will one day become the best college football channel on YouTube. Give us a like as well to get us into the algorithm, share this video and channel around, comment your thoughts, who you think your 15 best teams in college football are, or your top 10, or even top 5, or maybe if you don't want to type all that much, just tell me who you think the best team in college football is. Join our Discord server via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment, where we talk college football 24/7. And if you want to go the extra mile, score the extra point, you've already gotten into the end zone for us, and I appreciate that. You can support us monetarily via the Patreon page or the merchandise store. The links to access those are in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Or you can super chat us directly via the comment section. And we will be doing a giveaway at the end of the regular season to celebrate hitting 20,000 subscribers. So you will not want to miss that. But let's get down to business here and talk about who I think the 15 best teams in college football are. 14 of them Power 4, one of them Group of 5. And that one Group of 5 team sits at number 15, the Boise State Broncos. They're 9-1 overall, 6-0 in Mountain West Conference play. Their strengths are obviously running back Ashton Jeanty, but he does have a respectable offensive line in front of him as well. I think they are strong everywhere. Center, guard, tackle. They run a great operation on the ground. Matto Madsen, he's done a respectable job this season. Not great, but not bad either. And at defensive end, they have some good players there like Ahmed Hassanian and some others on defense. Their defensive coordinators, in fact, familiar name to many on the College Football with Sam channel, Eric Chenander, former Nebraska defensive coordinator. And I think that Boise State may not be overall the most balanced Group of 5 team or strongest, but they have Ashton Jeanty, and they have some good players on special teams, and I already talked about their star defensive end. So they have some X-Factor players, and especially at the Group of 5 level, X-Factor players can do a whole lot for you. I think they're weak in the secondary, have one of the more inferior passing defenses nationally, especially when you compare Boise State to the Power 4, who they'll be facing in the playoff if they make it, like I expect them to. And their special teams unit has been a little bit up and down this year as well. At 14th, I have the SMU Mustangs. SMU is 9-1, 6-0 undefeated in ACC play. Their best player, or one of their best players, tight end RJ Maryland, is out, unfortunately, for the year. It's been that way for a while. But that does not matter because SMU is just a very legit team when it comes to running the football, when it comes to being aggressive on defense. Their main running back, Brashard Smith, is one of the best in the entire ACC. Smith this season, he has 1,026 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, averages 6.5 yards per carry. And he has a respectable offensive line in front of him who's doing a pretty impressive job. Quarterback play, receiver play is all right as well. I mean, they have a really good offense in the ACC, and Rhett Lashley's doing a very good job there. I think they're weak in the defensive backfield, though. Pass defense, linebacker, cornerback, safety, they get low grades there. They're definitely better up front on both sides of the football, actually, than they are through the air, where they're a bit more inconsistent, on offense and defense. Or maybe consistent is the right word, but just consistently underperforming. At 13th, we have the Texas A&M Aggies, 8-2, 5-1 in SEC play. If Texas wins out, they're in. If they don't win out, this is regular season. I'm not going to get into the whole will the loser of the SEC championship game get kicked out. I don't think a 3-loss team should be in the playing field, with some rare exceptions, but that, again, is a topic for another day. A&M is strong at running back, where Le'Veon Moss has been killing it there. They're impressive at offensive tackle compared to where they were under Jimbo Fisher, where the offensive line was consistently a problem for them. Defensive tackle, defensive end, really the defensive line led by Nick Scorton, they are great there as well. And special teams has been good. One of the better special teams units, not just in the SEC, but in the entire country that A&M has. What is weak for A&M and what can hold them back is quarterback, whether it's Marcel Reed, younger player, or Connor Wiegman, the more experienced player across his whole career, who was assumed to be the starter but just hasn't performed well. They're very up and down and inconsistent. Very whoopsie-daisy, as Tom Fornelli would like to say at quarterback. And wide receiver and tight end don't help either. They don't help the Aggies. So they're at 13th, and just ahead of them at number 12 is a team who just beat them 44-20 a few weeks ago. That's the South Carolina Gamecocks. Lenoris Sellers, I don't think is a strength of the team, but he is one of the most improved players of the country from September now to the month of November. I'm very impressed with what he has done at the quarterback position, what Dowell Logans has done as offensive coordinator, and Shane Beamer overall is commanding his best operation at South Carolina to date, which is good because that means since his hiring, the Gamecocks have trended up overall. They're 7-3, 5-3 in the SEC. They're finished in SEC play. They really just have Clemson left. That's their biggest test, is going to be Clemson on the road in Death Valley. If they go 9-3, there will be people clamoring for South Carolina to be in the playoff, and I somewhat understand that because I think they are one of the 12 best teams with some room to move up. They're strong at defensive tackle, strong at defensive end, where Dylan Stewart is one of the best in the country, is a true freshman. Just wicked what they have there. And then Tonka Hemingway at defensive tackle, very good on the line, good on defense overall. I think linebacker, cornerback, and safety is also strong. The weakness for them is the offensive line. It's better than where it was last year, but still a little bit lackluster, and also wide receiver play. But they're improving everywhere, and they're one of the better teams, not just in college football and the SEC. They're up there. 11th, I got Tennessee. The Tennessee Volunteers are 8-2, 5-2 in SEC play. They're strong at running back with Dylan Sampson. They got James Pierce Jr. at defensive end, Omar Norman Lott at defensive tackle. This is a team that, against Georgia, kind of fell flat on its face because they have had and have benefited from one of the weaker schedules in the SEC. And they didn't come through. I thought they would. I was wrong, but here we are. Their defense is still one of the best in America. They have an impressive rushing attack. Wide receiver has been a bit of a kryptonite for them. Same with quarterback, with Nico Imaliava not performing to the level that I and many others thought that he would. And then offensive line and special teams has been a bit up and down as well. So the Volunteers sit there at 11th. I still think, I don't know what the playoff rankings will be tonight, as this is recorded on Tuesday, about an hour before the playoff rankings are revealed. I don't know if they'll be on the outside looking in, but my guess is, based off of how high they were and the fact that Georgia was the first team out, and it's clear that Georgia should not have been ranked that low, I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee was maybe the first or second team in and kind of in the safe zone as long as they win out. I forget who they play this weekend because it's a garbage opponent, but if they beat Vanderbilt, go 10-2, they'll probably be in, just as a road playoff team in the first round. And number 10, I have the Miami Hurricanes. 9-1, 5-1 in ACC play. They're coming off of a bye. They're strong at quarterback with Cam Ward. Mark Fletcher and Damian Martinez make up a great running back room. At wide receiver with Restrepo, with Brown, with George, they're good. Tight end with Arroyo, they're awesome. And at defensive tackle, they have a player named Simeon Barrow Jr., who I think is impressive. And at defensive end, you got Ruben Bain Jr., you have Tyler Barron. Miami is more talented than they are power rated, if that makes sense. If all teams played to their talent profile, or if the game of football was solely decided by the collection of players and how developed they are up to this point versus everyone else, Miami would be higher than 10th. But their staff as a whole is a major weakness. They are one of the worst staffs on this entire list. And then you also got to factor in that their players at corner just aren't that good, and special teams has been a little bit up and down. But weaknesses, when I talk about weaknesses for most of these teams, they're not crippling weaknesses. They're not position groups that are bad. They are just position groups that are on the inferior side of the scale compared to the other positions on the team. So Miami, for example, their special teams have been up and down, but they don't have a terrible special teams unit. It's average, maybe below average, maybe above average or good. It's in that range, about the median national special teams unit. But because they're so strong at multiple positions, it falls at the bottom end of the spectrum for all Miami positions. But the staff for Miami is, at head coach and game management and defensively, it is bad. It's one of the more inferior types of the entire Power Four, in my opinion. And that is why Miami's at 10th. At 9th, we have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame is 9-1. They're independent, so there's no conference record here. They're strong at center. They're strong at guard. Riley Mills and Howard Cross at defensive tackle have been awesome. Jack Kaiser at linebacker has been incredible. I think it's Benjamin Morrison who's out for the year at corner. Xavier Watts they have at safety, but maybe I'm getting the names mixed up because they're both awesome. They're both All-Americans. They're both DBs. This defense with Al Golden is incredible, and I think Mike Denbrock and Riley Leonard are connecting better. They understand each other more, and therefore you're seeing the offense improve. Notre Dame's a very dangerous team. In a year where there is not a GOAT caliber team, not even close, I think Notre Dame is a serious threat with what they have, because what they have is a really good defense and a very powerful run game. And both of those things helped Michigan attain the level of success they've had from 21 to 23. They've helped Georgia attain the level of success that they've had from 21 up until this date, because, I mean, Georgia, they're a team that's coming up in a few spots. They can win it all. Notre Dame has those tools. You just need to make sure that Marcus Freeman can step up when it matters most. And honestly, he's done that. His record is more shameful against the little guys than the big guys. And that's been a known. I think they're weak at receiver, both at wide receiver and tight end. They don't have the tight ends they typically do, but the tight ends they have are still pretty good. It's more so wide receiver and special teams that are real kryptonites to this team. But Notre Dame's a threat. They beat USC. They beat Army this weekend. They could host a playoff game for sure, and that would be awesome. A playoff game hosted in Notre Dame. It'd be incredible. At 8th, we have the Texas Longhorns here. Texas, they dropped a few spots in my ratings because, look, I think Arkansas is a team that has a pulse. I think they have some good players. But how in the world did you play Arkansas 20-10? And it's not like Texas is looking over Arkansas to play anybody. Like A&M is still more than a week down the line. They still are. I just didn't get that. And it was the fact that Texas had the game under their thumb the whole time, but they still couldn't put up a lot of points. There's just something not clicking offensively that really bothers me. Can they win it all? Yeah. And their defense is one of the nation's best. I mean, Alfred Collins is someone I identified in the preseason as being an All-American. He's playing that way right now. Trey Moore is good at defensive end. They have a lot of young players at linebacker. Makuba in the defensive back room, and Jahdae Barron. They have a lot of good players on defense. Their defense is one of the nation's best. Their weakness is the running back room. which was the case from the get-go. But also, I don't think the offensive line is playing to how we expected it to play with how many snaps they brought back. And special teams has been a bit up and down for the Longhorns as well. But they are number 8. They went out. They're in. If in fact they went out, they're in the SEC championship game as a guarantee because they only have one SEC conference loss. And number 7, a team who beat Texas 30-15 a few weeks ago, is the Georgia Bulldogs. 8-2, 6-2 in the SEC. They're coming off of a win over Ole Miss. They're strong at defensive tackle, defensive end, all over on defense. It's a similar story to Texas, if I'm being honest. Georgia is, where they're not the same talent profile. They're not. I think that Georgia is better and stronger and more talented on defense in the trenches. Texas is more talented at the skill positions, but in terms of performance, they're kind of like the Spider-Man meme. Really strong defenses and offenses that are just completely bipolar, very up and down, and dependent on a few players. These are offenses that if a few injuries occur, they completely fall apart. They're not extremely resilient. But the defense is one of the nation's best. I think Kirby Smart needed that Tennessee win, and like good coaches do, he got it. They're weak at running back. They're, I would say, up and down on the offensive line, but when healthy, it's one of the nation's best. Special teams, like it is with a lot of the good teams you'll find in ESPN's efficiency metrics, is not very high. But part of that may be due to the fact that the good teams don't rely on special teams as much to score points. But I like Georgia. I regained some faith in them after they got destroyed by Ole Miss, but then they turned around and dominated Tennessee. It was a good win for Georgia. They went out. Their future in the SEC championship game isn't completely determined, and they finished SEC play, but they'll certainly be in the playoff at 10-2. At number 6, I got the Ole Miss Rebels, 4-2 in SEC play, 8-2 overall. Jackson Dart is one of the nation's best quarterbacks, and he has Trey Harris, one of the nation's best wide receivers. And Walter Nolan and Princely Unmanmalen are impressive on the outside. And I believe same with Jaden Ivey, or maybe I'm confusing him with someone else, but no, I don't think it's Jaden Ivey. Maybe he is. I'm not going to spend any time on that, but they have good defensive linemen. Ole Miss does, and especially Walter Nolan, who on the interior is just an absolute beast. One of the best defenses in college football, paired with one of the most potent offenses. Their weakness is their rushing attack. Running back room isn't what it was when they had Judkins, and their offensive line, while it's upgraded, it's much better than last year's offensive line, is still not at an elite level. It's better. And that's why Ole Miss, I think, is a national title contender, because they're one of the best teams in the country, thanks to their offense, especially through the air, and what Jackson Dart can do on the ground as well, and their defense, which is close to the best in America in stopping the run, and it's still top 25 in defending the pass. At number 5, the best team in the SEC, in my opinion, is the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're 8-2, 4-2 in SEC play. Jalen Milroe, when he's healthy, is one of the nation's better quarterbacks. The problem that Alabama runs into is he is their everything. The team runs through him. They're also strong, I think, at running back with Justice Haynes and Jam Miller, and Deontay Lawson and Jihad Campbell are good players at linebacker, and Malachi Moore and Keon Sabb and the players they have in the safety room are really good too, and Ryan Williams is an alien at wide receiver, but the team ultimately runs through Milroe. Against Tennessee, I buy into the theory that he was hurt during that game. That's why he barely ran the football, and that did not help the offense. His rushing ability determines the success of this team. So I think that the staff needs to play that by ear, because if they want to win it all, they're on the outside looking in. So they may have to play, they're going to have to play like 16 games, maybe 17 if they reach the SEC championship game and lose, at which point I don't even know if a 10-3 Alabama would probably make the playoff, but I'm uncertain based off of how everyone's been ranked. The point I'm trying to make is the offensive line, I think, is a weak point on the team, but it's good. Defensive ends the same way. This is a team that's full of great players, elite players, some aliens too, but Milroe is the best player, and the team, of course the offense, but I feel like the team really runs through him. So keeping him healthy is paramount. If they do keep him healthy, they could end up being number one at the end of the year. This is a scary team that I don't think anyone wants to face when they have extra time to prepare and when Milroe is healthy. At number 4, I have the Penn State Nittany Lions. They're 9-1, 6-1 in Big Ten play. Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen are wonderful at running back. Tight end Tyler Warren, it's either him or Harold Fannin Jr. for the best tight end in the nation. And if you include them with the wide receivers, they're closer to Jeremiah Smith in terms of receiving capability than they are to even a good wide receiver. Like, they are aliens in their own right. And we're talking about Penn State here, so I'll focus on Tyler Warren. They have Zane Durant and Devon J. Thomas at defensive tackle. We all know Abdul Carter at defensive end. This is a team that is strong in the trenches. That is, I would say, they have a high octane energy to them that they have not had before. And by energy, I don't just mean team mood. It's more so just how they're playing with Andy Kotelnicki as the offensive coordinator. They do have a lot to work on, though. I think that James Franklin holds this team back still to a degree. I think that Penn State, if they had Kirby Smart as their head coach, or if they had Ryan Day as their head coach, I think that they would be the best team in the country. I think. And maybe I'm wrong there, but I think their roster is very much underrated by a lot of people. But I can't blame them. Because at the end of the day, wins and losses and how you perform are what matter, and I do think Franklin holds this team back. So he is a weakness. It's the same thing to a more extreme degree, yes, but a similar thing with Cristobal and his defensive staff at Miami holding that team back. If we were just talking about talent profile, or maybe with Penn State because they don't have a ton of 5 stars, just how the players are playing right now and how I think they've performed throughout the year, and you put that on a platform with all the other teams, they may be higher than 4th. But head coach is a weakness, game management is a weakness, and the wide receiver and special teams units have not just been disappointing relative to Penn State standards, they've been anywhere from mediocre to bad nationally. Special teams, that's especially the case. For wide receiver, probably above average, maybe good, it's sometimes great, but that Ohio State game really left a mark on that receiver core. At 3, I have Indiana. They're undefeated at 10-0, 7-0 in Big Ten play. They're strong at quarterback, tight end, defensive tackle, defensive end, and linebacker. They, right now, command statistically the most impressive rushing defense in the Big Ten. I really like Michael Kamara, James Carpenter, Linnell Carr Jr. on the defensive line. At tight end, I think Zach Horton is really good, and Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr. are great at wide receiver. And Curtis Rourke's the Big Ten's most efficient quarterback per ESPN's QBR, and I think he's first in the Big Ten in passer rating too. The weaknesses of Indiana are guard, where Drew Evans is out for the year with an unfortunate Achilles injury. Special teams is not a weakness at all. In fact, it's an above average to good special teams unit, but Indiana is so good in so many different areas that it just happens to fall on the lower end of the spectrum for Indiana position units. And that's actually a similar case with running back. I think Indiana has one of the deepest running back rooms in America, but they don't have an X-factor player there. They don't have a high-octane player there. Their best player in the running back room, Justice Ellison, is a great running back at best. He's not near elite, and he's not elite either. And I think, in part, Indiana's running back room might be a product of their offensive line, which has quietly been one of the Big Ten's better offensive lines this year. So those are some areas of weakness for Indiana, but they're a very good team. They're an elite team. Ohio State's an elite team as well, and that's why they're number 2. They're 9-1, 6-1 in Big Ten play. I contemplated putting them at number 1. I did, but head-to-head matters a little bit. I don't take head-to-head in consideration a lot, guys, by the way. It matters a little bit, though. It's just sprinkled in there. More importantly, Ohio State at the beginning of the year was still a better team than they are right now. I mean, Howard has gotten better. Yes. The defense has generated more pressure. Yes. But the rushing game, I mean, come on. The rushing game's taken a million steps back compared to where it was the prior months, September and October, before Simmons was injured. I mean, they got bigger runs. They had more of a power ability. They are improving in some areas, but I think that this team right now still has some limitations. And Oregon's game against Wisconsin, which was their ultimate low point, that was their worst game of the year outside of the Idaho game, or maybe you could say the Boise State game, which was a while ago and when the team was more banged up. Ohio State's worst game was against Nebraska, who I think, especially with it being at home and Nebraska being inferior to Wisconsin via power ratings, that was not a good game. And I'm going through all of this explanation because Ohio State has an argument to be number one. I mean, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins at running back really compensate for some of the issues they've had on the offensive line. The offensive line is not a bad O-line, by the way. I think it's a above average good O-line. It's just, again, weak relative to the positions that Ohio State has on their roster, relative to the other players at different positions. At defensive tackle with Ty Hamilton, Tyleik Williams, and defensive end with Sawyer and Tui Moalau. They're solid, they're strong, they're excellent at tackling on defense, and that's in part due to the safety duo of Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom. This is an elite team. The weakness they have, part of it's due to injuries, is tackle and tight end. I would also say a little bit of just poor performance overall at tight end, but when healthy, they were awesome at tackle. And special teams, while trending up, is still weak relative to other positions on the team. Last but not least, we have the Oregon Ducks. They're undefeated. They're 8-0 in Big Ten Conference play. They're on a bye this coming weekend. Jordan James crossed 1,000 rushing yards. He's fantastic. When they're healthy at wide receiver, because Tez Johnson's banged up right now. When you have Johnson, when you have Holden, and you also have, why am I blanking? Oh, Stewart. You have one of the better wide receiver cores in the nation. At defensive tackle and offensive tackle, they're good. And you look at corner, I thought that what they did against Wisconsin, while we know Wisconsin is a limited passing offense, they held Wisconsin to less success through the air than Penn State and Alabama did, despite the fact that Penn State and Alabama had a lot more success on offense and were just handicapped. I think that does say something about Oregon's corners, and they've been performing well all year long. Weaknesses for Oregon are offensive guard and special teams, though both of those units are good nationally, maybe even great. They're just weak relative to what Oregon has. And I got to be honest, I think it's the same thing with Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel he's a great player. He's a near elite QB, and he's one of the best QBs in the country right now. But Oregon is so good at so many different positions that I think on his roster, he's not one of the best players on Oregon's roster, in my mind. He's good. He's great. He's near elite. I wouldn't say he's quite elite, though. I mean, he's had some games where he's been unproductive in the red zone, and he throws a lot of checkdowns. So I'm not hating on him when I say that, to clarify, but I don't think that he is one of the strongest links on this Oregon team. But they're number one, and right now, it'd be them or Ohio State is my favorite to win it all. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thanks to Crash248, Brasco Rascal, and Connell OH for being Heisman members. Thanks to Chris Lane, Ismar, and Tyler Nye for being All-American members. And thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Joshua Jorgensen, Will Loftus for being all-conference members. Have a great day, everyone. Make sure, again, to subscribe, like, and also check out my Patreon page and Discord server and merchandise store via the links in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you all very soon.